Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever time you're watching, welcome to the channel. And either I learned how to finally make clickable thumbnails, or you read the title and you too need some help improving your horde base. So these tips and tricks are for your earlier horde bases, especially if you're newer to the game. These should be able to help you out get through the first few horde nights on the current version of Alpha 21, and they should carry over to future updates. So if you're still in the current console version, go check out Spartan85's channel. He's got a ton of tips and tricks for newer players. Plus, he's got a lot of fun playthroughs he's doing right now with different themes and challenges. Go check him out, send him some love. I wouldn't be here without him. So the first tip that any player is going to give you off the bat is build your horde bases out of cobblestone. A cobblestone is easy enough to get. It is stone, it is clay, mix them together, you get cobblestone rocks. And with cobblestone rocks, you can directly build cobblestone blocks. Now these are great because you don't have to worry about upgrading them. The downside is though, once you place it, you cannot pick it back up. That being said, be careful with your placement, and if you feel more comfortable building with the building blocks than just upgrading it to cobblestone, that's how I did it for the longest time before I even discovered you can just make cobblestone blocks. And that might work out better for you as you learn the mechanics of the game. No big deal though. Now another first tip, play with the creative menu. Build a new world if you don't want to screw up the one you're already in. Activate the creative menu, play around, check out the different styles of blocks, check out the different objects in the game. It'll really help you learn the mechanics of the game and make your play experience on your main map a whole lot more smooth. So the next tip, obviously build off the ground. Now zombies will take the path of least resistance, so if you just build a wall on the ground here, the zombies will try to smash through it to get to you. Now all you need to do to build elevated bases, if you can't quite reach something, nerd pole up with the building blocks, pick them right up after. That is the easiest thing to do. And the next tip I'm going to have is be a little bit more creative with the blocks in the game. So if you hold R, you can change the shape. And on the basic page here, we're going to have poles and pillars. I'm going to go down to the poles down here, and I'm going to go look for the pillar 0.025 meter middle. So as you can see, it is just this little peg sitting there. And if you hold R again and go to advanced, you can use the left click to rotate the block around, or R. Personally, I use R, just a little bit easier, and I'm going to rotate this till it is making a tightrope. So zombies can use the tightrope, and what this is going to help you with is stopping them from bunching up on you. So if two zombies are coming up at the same time on the top of the steps, only one can walk on the tightrope at a time. It'll just help thin them out a little bit. And I'm sure you're very much aware that once you build too far out with blocks, your base will crumble. So to stop that from happening, we're going to build some pillars. Now cube pillars work just fine. Just like that. So there you have it. First tip, don't let zombies bunch up and build yourself a tightrope. So next is how do we stop the zombies from attacking the pillar? Now remember, the zombies will travel the path of least resistance to get to you. They should not be attacking pillars, but for safety's sake and peace of mind, we're going to add a little bit more protection to our pillars. And if we go back up to our select the shape, we're going to select the plates. So plates still take up, as you can see, a whole cube. But if we hold down R again, hit that advanced button, and start rotating, now the plate will be flush up against the pillar here. And we can go as high or low as we want with them. Keep rotating. And we can add an extra layer of protection onto our pillar, and this will add however many hit points to the material you're using. So with the plates, we have 1500 hit points on the plates, and behind it, another 1500 points for the pillar. So that means there's 2 layers for the zombies to get through. I'm going to plate up this entire pillar, and we'll move on to our next tip. So the next tip I have for you, I like to call the total wipeout method. All it really means is adding obstacles onto your path that will not stop the zombies from getting to you, but will help slow them down. So obviously we have the tight rope to stop them from bunching, and another one for them would be a pole jump. So I'm going to hold R, get back into my shapes here. In the basic shapes we have pole side centered. So this is going to be great. If we go back into rotating here, you put the pole here and you see this cube that sticks out, that means the pole still counts as a full block. So what we can do with this is I'm going to go with the pole centered, and off of that block, I'm going to try to find the sweet spot. I'm going to build a double pole. Now what this is going to do is zombies are going to try to jump from this pole all the way up here thinking that this is a solid block and this is just a one step up, and they will fall down and have a really difficult time making it across. Another version you can do, which is the one I like to do, is not let the zombies fall off too much. The reason for that is zombies do not give you XP if you do not kill them. So if I spread out these blocks like this, they have an easy time getting to this pole, popping up on top of here, and I'll do one more right here to kind of form, you know, your driving finger. And this is another way to thin out the zombies. They will try to jump from this pole to this pole to this pole. I would say around 70% will make it no problem. It's another one of those tactics that will slow down the zombies. It's a whole lot easier early game with early weapons to take out 1 or 2 zombies at a time instead of having them all horde against you. So I'm just going to fill this in with the paint and we'll move on to the next tip. So continuing on our pathway here, you can see it's kind of getting a little extended and you're like, I should probably put down another pillar. And I concur, that is a great idea. But instead of just using this plain block method like we used in the first pillar, I'm going to show you something a little bit different, and it's called the floating base method. So I'm going to go in here, back to my shapes, get this plate, and I'm going to put a plate right underneath the pillar here, facing upwards, and I'm going to go in the advanced rotation, and rotate that bad boy so now the plate is upwards. You might have to crouch down for this one. We smack a plate underneath there, and there you have it. Now the zombies can still attack this bottom plate here, but like crawling zombies and all that will have a much more difficult time. And if the ground was more level, this space right here is pretty much 2 whole blocks, and the zombies will be facing forward trying to smack it. They can't reach it, and I cannot walk forward. Again, to demonstrate on a much more flat surface what I'm talking about here, hold R, back up to my shapes, select my plate, put the first plate down here, and what you can do is if you advance rotate it, so the plate is floating up top, you can place that plate on top of the block, the cube, of the other plate, and now you have a floating plate. This is very cheeky. A lot of players don't use it as much because they think it's kind of cheating. But if it's in the game, like RPGs, if it works, it works. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to paint up my floating pillar. And as you can see, the plate is still there. There's that plate down there. It is floating. It is much more difficult for the zombies to hit it. And I'm going to reinforce the outside of this portion as well. So now that we've slowed down the grouping of zombies with the tightrope and the driving finger, I'm going to start working on a fighting platform. These do not have to be crazy. They can be simple, but they can also be very effective. And as I'm placing the blocks here, you can kind of see they're getting yellow. That means the structure is getting a little too heavy to support itself. So we can support it with our pillars, put some plates on the outside. You can also do the floating plate method. But there's one more style that I also enjoy. So now that I have this BBW, this big base that's wobbly, I'm going to do one more type of support back here, which is something that I do not have a name for. But we're going to go to the shapes. We're going to go to the poles again. We're going to go down to the 0.025 meter pillar. And see if we can see it pretty decently up here. I have it on that bottom side here. Arrow, please. Boop. And I'm going to move over, rotate it again. Boop. Go to this cube. Boop. And this cube. Boop. So as you can see, there's 4 different pillars in this one small section. What this is going to help us with is zombies that are kind of coming in because they don't walk blocks. They still walk like we do. There's a better chance that they're going to completely miss this obstacle and not have the tendency to smack it. You know how you get whenever you bump into somebody, you just want to punch them. Zombies are like that all the time. So I'm going to continue to draw these poles down. And there you have it. So each one of these is going to be 1,500 points with the cobblestone. That is going to hold up pretty decently. If the zombies whack one, they still have to get through the rest. I'll go over there and show you what I mean in a more cleaner surface. So we're back over here with our pretty canvas. And I marked out a block in the center. So we're going to do one on that corner. Just rotate one on that corner. Rotate one on that corner. Rotate one on that corner. So each one of these blocks has a pole in the corner. And if you look, there's your 4 segments. Each of those is 1,500 hit points. That is a lot of hit points for the zombies to break through. Almost as strong as plating up, but the benefit of the single pole is a zombie has less of a chance of walking into it. It'll stop them from smacking it for no reason. So you're probably sitting there saying, Steve, you're so amazing. This base can never fail the way it's designed. Oh, it can still absolutely fail. So the next tip is going to be reinforce your reinforcements. Now, kind of like the support trick we did over here, I'm going to try to reinforce the ground around and or underneath the pillars. So I'm going to switch over to plates. Bada bing. Bada boom. And place as many plates around here as I can. It's another one of those measures that's going to stop the zombies from digging around your base. Especially when they start to get a little cheeky and they want to dig down. And there you have it. Now you're like, Steve, those pillars are never going to crumble. You would also be wrong. So if you go into here in your build menu, and you just type in spikes, you have a wood spike strap, which is probably something you're going to be using at this stage in the game. Go over here, build as many as you can. They're semi-cheap. And I totally did not spawn these in. And just spike the heck out of your supports here. So you're probably thinking to yourself, Steve, there is not much more you can do to improve this. Unfortunately, there is one more factor that can happen, and that is your path will be destroyed at some point. Whether you're like me, who ends up shooting your own pathway, or a zombie explodes on it, or a zombie's just whacking at it, this pathway can still fail, so it's good to have a backup. I'm gonna go back to my cube here, and my favorite pathing block will be another tightrope, which would be this pillar 0.025 meter middle. I'm gonna select that, go back to the advanced rotation, not pass it 3 or 4 times. Now I'm gonna build a secondary tightrope. Now this tightrope is gonna go the whole way across, and the reason I'm gonna do the tightrope the whole way across, plan ahead, is by the time that these platforms start to fail, that means stuff is hitting the fan, and you will not have time to really re-deal or recount on all of these obstacles. So this way that if the tightrope fails, there's one tightrope underneath it. If the driving finger fails, there's still a tightrope underneath it. It'll help continue to thin out the zombies and has a little bit of a fallback for in case your path fails. Now you can't leave it out from the driving fingers here, but for the most part, it's not really going to hurt a whole lot. And it's just that peace of mind, that extra bit of support, plan B, whatever you want to call it. Now we're going to move on to building our fighting platform. So I've just placed the basic shell of a fighting platform up here. This is generally what you'll start off with. And the cool thing about building a base like this is you can just keep expanding onto it the more your technology progresses. But for now, I'm going to show you a couple tips on how to improve this basic design. So first, I've got my handy dandy block here, holding down R, back to the shapes, and we're going to be up in the basic ones here, and you're going to see these bars. Now these bars are fantastic. Again, everything in this game takes up a cube. So if I just rotate these bars and have them like that, now as I'm inside of my fighting position here, if there's a crawling zombie, I can easily shoot him down, boom, 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 and plus still have some protection from zombies. So you're like, great, we have bars here. Zombies like to whack stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to rotate. Boop. Rotate and put another set of bars here. Now that we have 2 sets of bars here, double the protection, double the pleasure. So cool, we have our double bars here. I'm going to put some double bars on the side here because I like to see what the heck is going on with my base, make sure everything's going the way I planned. So you're wondering, why don't I like to see all the way around? Now the spitting cops do attack line of sight, and they can see you through these bars. There are other ways around it, and you can still see out, but there's more advanced tips and tricks. We're just here for the basics. So a good simple solid wall will prevent the cops from spitting at you, and you're only worried about a full frontal assault. So now I'm going to take my cubes and build up a little bit taller here. Leaving this top exposed. Get back down in here. And now you're thinking, Steve, crawling zombies are a thing now. This 1x1 block they can easily crawl through. How do we stop that? Simple. Hold down R. We're going to go to our basic shapes here. And one I like to use will be this corner pole here. It looks something like that. And we just go to the advanced rotation and smack R or your left click 1,000 times. You're going to see that this pole now sits up on this block right here, but makes this square no longer a 1x1. So you can still melee through here, but the zombies will not see that as a crawlable hole. And if we do the same thing on the other side, we have double the protection. Layering is key with horde bases. So let's paint all this up. And now you're thinking, Steve, I've seen your other horde bases. Zombies like to crawl up higher. That they do. They stack on each other's shoulders. We have a solution for that. These handy dandy half cubes do really well. And all you got to do is smack them up here. And this will prevent the zombies from stacking up on top of each other, climbing up to your roof and trying to breach up there. Now with these handy dandy half cubes, there's one more trick you can easily do. And again, if you're having problems getting up to the high places, just nerd pole. No big deal. I'm going to build a little lip all the way around the top of my base here. There are crawling zombies that do like to climb up your base and try to get to the roof. If you have a lip going all the way around, it'll stop them from getting too high up on you. Now that we have this Minecraft witch hut looking thing, what else can we do to prevent zombies from bothering us? Good question. Especially out in the desert here, we have vultures. So if one of your problems is having vultures hit you from above, you have no way to really defend it, we're going to go back down to our cobblestone. Select our bars, go to the advanced rotation, and we're just going to fill up our ceiling with bars. This way you can easily shoot at the birds flying in at you. No big deal. Birds come in, they'll always attack from above. You just shoot them. But how can we improve this a little bit more? Well, that's easy. We're going to nerd pull ourselves up to the ceiling. We're going to select spikes, and we're going to spike our roofs. Birds will always fly straight down into the spikes, and they will just take care of themselves. Now you're thinking to yourself, Steve, you got this porcupine-looking witch hut over here from Minecraft. How the heck are we supposed to get in? There's an easy solution for that as well. So let's get over to this exposed little spot here. This is where our door is going to go. So zombies and spitting cops do target the door. They consider it a weak point. So all we're going to do is we're going to build up and hide our door a little bit. So now we have this L-shaped corridor which blocks line of sight from the spitting cops, and the zombies don't see it. They will not target the door. And say you do not feel like nerd polling to get up here, we want to build a ladder. That is completely fine. Now, a lot of people will put 2 spaces here and start their ladder right here. And the zombies cannot jump up the 2 spaces to reach the ladder, but you easily can. The only problem I have with this method is sometimes, especially with the terrain like this, is this ground is kind of elevated a bit and the zombies still have a chance to climb it. So what I'm going to do to prevent that from happening is I'm going to take out this bottom rung, and whenever I want access to the base, I can put a cheap old building block here. And the great part about building blocks is I can still jump this 2-block gap. Just look down, you can pick that building block right up, and boom, I am safe inside of my base and the zombies cannot reach up to the ladder. That's all we have to do for our contingency, because you know I like to have contingency. Put our trap door there. Bada boom. Fill all of this in. And one last tip before we do our fly around, check out the whole base and do a horde in here, is you can put down a couple ladders. And what this will help do is, in case the zombies get a little too bunched up at the end here, they won't start smacking at your structure here, and they can climb up to get up on top of the blocks here. So again, this is not a base building tutorial. These are a couple tricks that I use all the time building horde bases. I hope this helps you get through your first few horde bases. The great thing about starting off designs like this and moving forward is you can customize this area however the heck you want. You can take out these bars and expand your base even further out the back. This could just be your first stage of fighting. You could have a fallback with later on hordes. Alright, so we got a day 14 horde happening here. Another suggestion I would have is bring a repair hammer and extra materials to repair as you need to. The zombies will eventually start breaking through, so be prepared for that. Try to keep up with it. But if one of these bars fails, you'll have another bar to keep going here. And here comes our first customers. Come on, buddy. So he's going to make it across, and oh, he failed there. Down he goes into the spikes. He's going to try again. Let's get back into position for our first customers that make it. Off the bat, already got a good start going. Hey, guys. Another good tip to have is to make sure your hotbar has got the tools you need. First aid kits, repair hammer, and keep everything in the same spot too. That way, whenever you're getting used to the game, your melee weapon will always be in your first slot, wherever you like to have it. Your next up gun will be like in your second spot, or however you like to lay it out. And my game stage is a bit higher up, so I'll probably have more fierce zombies like the lumberjack there. But this just goes to show that this base can hold up quite a bit. And there you go, everyone. A couple of tips and tricks that I personally use to help you get through a couple of your horde nights. I hope you found some of these useful. I hope you learned something new. I'm not going to fight off this entire horde and bore you with that. You were here for tips and tricks, not to watch me fight a horde. So I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you for stopping by. If I helped you out, please drop it in the comments below. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll catch you in the next one.